Darth Maul is an icon of rage, a living weapon forged by hate whose very presence screams violence. We remember him carving through Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, we remember him surviving being cut in half, and we remember him building a criminal empire from the ashes of his own broken body. He is, by any measure, a monster, a whirlwind of acrobatic fury and raw, untamed power. But there is one Sith Lord, a figure of elegance and aristocracy, whose unique skill set turns this dream match into an absolute nightmare for Maul. A Sith Lord who wouldn't just defeat him, but systematically dismantle and humiliate him. That man is Count Dooku. And the reason why has everything to do with what Sith training represents. When we pit two titans of the dark side against each other, the conversation often defaults to raw power and aggression. Who is stronger? Who is faster? Who is more ruthless? By these metrics, Darth Maul appears to be a terrifying contender. He's a Zabrak warrior trained from infancy as a Sith assassin, conditioned to be a relentless predator. His entire being is optimized for combat, a masterpiece of biological and dark side engineering. When he ignites his double-bladed lightsaber, he isn't just fighting, he is unleashing a chaotic storm of pure kinetic force. He overpowered Qui-Gon Jinn through sheer stamina and aggression. He established dominance over the criminal underworld through fear and brutality. Even after being literally bisected, his hatred was so profound it kept him alive, fueling a quest for revenge that spanned the galaxy. This is not a warrior you underestimate. Maul represents the unleashed passion of the Sith, all fury, all-consuming. But warfare, especially at this level, is not just a contest of brute strength. It is a chess match of strategy, technique, and control. And in this arena, Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, operates on a completely different plane. A former Jedi Master, once the respected peer of Mace Windu and the prized apprentice of Yoda himself, Dooku's understanding of the Force and lightsaber combat is leagues beyond Maul's focused yet limited training. This reveals a fundamental difference in their purpose. Palpatine trained Maul to be a killer, an instrument of terror. He trained Dooku to be a leader, a strategist, and his true second-in-command. And this difference in their education is the seed of Maul's utter destruction. Drawing from both canon and legends, we're going to break down their lightsaber forms, their command of the Force, and their combat records to prove definitively why Count Dooku is Maul's undisputed superior. At the heart of this confrontation is one of the most fascinating stylistic matchups in all of Star Wars. The reason why has everything to do with what their chosen lightsaber forms represent. It pits Dooku's Form 2 Makashi against Maul's Form 7, Juyo. On the surface, it's elegance versus aggression. In reality, it's a surgical instrument poised to dissect a blunt weapon. Darth Maul is a practitioner of Juyo, the most aggressive and ferocious of the 7 lightsaber forms. Juyo is described as chaotic and unpredictable, fueled by a practitioner's inner rage. It relies on a relentless barrage of attacks, using speed and overwhelming kinetic energy to batter down an opponent's defenses. Combined with Maul's natural acrobatic ability and the confusing patterns of his double-bladed saber, it's a style designed to shock, overwhelm, and exhaust its victims. We saw this work to perfection against Qui-Gon Jinn, whose own acrobatic style simply couldn't keep up with Maul's superior stamina. But Juyo has a critical weakness. It heavily sacrifices defensive precision for pure, unadulterated assault. This makes it incredibly vulnerable to a duelist who can weather the initial storm and exploit the openings created by such a frenzied attack. And there is no one in the history of the galaxy better equipped to do that than Count Dooku. Dooku is the undisputed master of Makashi, a form specifically developed for lightsaber-to-lightsaber dueling. Unlike the wide, sweeping blocks of other forms, Makashi is about economy of motion. It's a fencer's style, built on precise, controlled movements, parries, and ripostes. The curved hilt of Dooku's lightsaber allows for unparalleled precision and blade control, enabling him to change the angle of his attacks with a simple twist of the wrist. Where Maul is a hurricane, Dooku is the eye of the storm. Makashi is designed to redirect an opponent's momentum against them. It thrives on countering aggressive, power-heavy styles like Juyo. We see this time and time again in Dooku's duels. He consistently outmaneuvered the aggressive Anakin Skywalker throughout the Clone Wars. He even held his own against the combined might of both Anakin and Obi-Wan. He could parry the overwhelming strength of Savage Opress. and he could find the flaws in Obi-Wan's legendary Soresu defense. In a duel, Maul would launch himself at Dooku in a furious onslaught, but it wouldn't work. Dooku wouldn't meet Maul's force with force. Instead, he would use Makashi's precise footwork to maintain perfect distance, his blade making only minimal contact to deflect Maul's strikes. Maul's rage-fueled attacks would become a liability, making him predictable. Dooku would simply weather the storm with infuriating ease, conserving his energy while Maul burns through his own. The frustration would mount. Maul, unaccustomed to an opponent who won't break, would grow sloppy, and in that moment, Dooku would strike. A single, precise thrust, the hallmark of Makashi, would end the duel. It would be an execution, not a fight. The technical superiority is so absolute that it renders Maul's physical advantages almost meaningless. If the lightsaber duel is a decisive victory for Dooku, the battle of force abilities is a complete rout. Darth Maul is undeniably powerful. His telekinesis is strong enough to rip apart starships, and his sheer willpower is what allowed him to survive his bisection. But Maul's abilities, while potent, are fundamentally basic. This was by design. Sidious trained him as an assassin, a physical threat, and deliberately limited his education in the deeper mysteries of the dark side to ensure he could never become a true rival. Maul is a blunt instrument. Count Dooku, on the other hand, is a savant. As a former Jedi Master and Yoda's own apprentice, his knowledge of the Force is vast and nuanced. After turning to the dark side, he integrated this profound understanding with Sith teachings, becoming a Force wielder of incredible sophistication. His telekinetic abilities are, at minimum, on par with Maul's, but his arsenal extends far beyond simple telekinesis. His greatest advantage is his mastery of Force lightning. This is not the uncontrolled, explosive rage of Palpatine's lightning, but a precise and controlled torrent of energy he can summon with one hand. It is a weapon Maul has absolutely no defense against. When confronted by his former master's overwhelming power in the Clone Wars, which included devastating force abilities and lightning, Maul was left writhing in agony, completely helpless. Dooku's own lightning would have a similar effect, allowing him to incapacitate Maul from a distance. But it doesn't stop there. Dooku was skilled in more esoteric Sith arts, and his control was so great that he could contend with Yoda himself in a pure contest of force power. A feat that places him in the absolute highest echelon of force users. Imagine the duel again. Maul charges, Dooku parries. But this time, as Maul presses his attack, Dooku simply raises a hand. A blast of lightning sends Maul staggering back. Dooku could win this fight without ever igniting his saber. Maul's power is like a raging river, powerful but confined to its channel. Dooku's power is the entire ocean, vast, and with a depth Maul cannot possibly comprehend. A warrior's worth is ultimately measured by whom they have fought. When we compare their combat records, the gap between Dooku and Maul becomes a canyon. Darth Maul's signature victory is his defeat of Qui-Gon Jinn. It's an impressive feat, but one that needs context. He defeated an aging master and was then, through his own arrogance, defeated by an apprentice. Later, his record is mixed. He struggled against Ahsoka Tano during the Siege of Mandalore, and their final confrontation on Tatooine saw Obi-Wan, having studied Maul for years, dispatch him in 3 moves. When Maul stood before his former master, Darth Sidious, he was utterly outclassed, treated as little more than an annoyance. Now, consider Count Dooku's record. He was regularly dueling the most powerful Jedi of the era. He fought and bested both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker simultaneously on multiple occasions. Obi-Wan himself, who faced both combatants, consistently struggled against Dooku's refined mastery. His own combat experiences reveal a clear hierarchy of skill, with Dooku representing a level of swordsmanship that repeatedly overwhelmed him. Dooku's dueling prowess was so legendary that he was considered a peer of Mace Windu. And most telling of all is his duel with Yoda on Geonosis. While he was forced to retreat, Dooku held his own against the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. To stalemate Yoda, even for a short time, is a feat Maul could not dream of achieving. This isn't to say Maul is weak. He is a formidable warrior, but he exists in a tier below the true masters. He is a gatekeeper, a test for powerful Jedi like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. Dooku, however, belongs in the top tier, alongside the likes of Yoda, Mace Windu, and Sidious. He was a genuine contender, a king on the galactic chessboard, while Maul was ultimately just a pawn. This clear hierarchy of power reveals something important about what it truly means to be a powerful Sith. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive into Sith supremacy, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're constantly breaking down the biggest matchups and deepest lore in the Star Wars universe. And let me know in the comments below, do you agree that Dooku would humiliate Maul, or do you think the Zabrak's fury would be too much for the Count to handle? When all is said and done, the confrontation between Darth Maul and Count Dooku comes down to one simple truth. It is a clear-cut case of technical mastery triumphing over raw, unfocused aggression. Maul is a beast of pure rage, a living embodiment of the dark side's ferocity. In a contest of pure physicality, he would undoubtedly tax the older Count. But a duel between Sith is never just about physicality. It is a battle of philosophy and skill. And in every meaningful category, Dooku holds a decisive, overwhelming advantage. His Makashi lightsaber form is the perfect counter to Maul's aggressive Juyo, designed to turn Maul's greatest strength, his relentless offense, into his fatal weakness. His command of the Force is vastly more versatile and refined, granting him access to devastating powers like Force lightning that Maul simply cannot counter. And his experience against the absolute elite of the galaxy places him in a league far above Maul's own. Maul's aggression would be met with elegant deflection. His rage would be answered with cold, calculated precision. The fight would not be a glorious back-and-forth epic. It would be a lesson, a brutal, humbling lesson delivered by a true master of the dark side. Darth Maul is a storm, but Count Dooku is the mountain that effortlessly breaks it. He would not just defeat Maul, he would expose him, dismantle him, and leave him utterly humiliated.